The one, the only, the meticulous producer, writer, creator of V. I'm fairly certain he organized craft services and everything else. The most detailed oriented man I've ever met, Kenneth Johnson. One of my personal favorite stars. I was particularly happy when I saw him pop up on Arrow, although he was a bad guy, I didn't like that. Or I guess just from a different perspective. Mike Donovan, the single greatest human reporter superhero ever. Forget that guy in Metropolis. Say hi to Marc Singer. All right, I'm Gary. I'll be your tour director for the next 3 hours. A lot of people stop me. Oop. You can take pictures of Marc all day long. I might. A lot of people stop us in the halls and they say, exactly what is Warner Archive? Because we buy the DVDs, we buy the Blu-rays, we treasure it, but I think Matt and Dan can probably explain it best.
Well, we made a 1-minute video to explain it for us because we don't have enough time today to get into it. Whoa, thank you. All right, here we go.
Blu-rays and the DVDs.
Exactly. So
covered it, okay.
That's Warner Archive. Let's get the V.
So it's 9 p.m. on May 1st, 1983. I know I'm just about to graduate college, and 50 giant flying saucers suddenly appear on the network TV hovering over the biggest cities in the world. Who are these visitors and what do they want? And here is what you might have seen that night.
So, who saw that night in 1983?
Whoa!
Well, we're done. Buy the Blu-ray. See you guys.
Thank you for your support.
I personally know that when I saw that, my eyes were not just glued to the television, but that might have been the case because we had a 13-inch TV with a pair of pliers. So that's how I found TV. But how about you, Dan?
It's actually remarkable to me, and I'm going to say this quickly because let's get to V. But 1983. This was when I was in my senior year of high school, which I don't remember much of, but I remember V.
So, how did V come to be birthed?
How did it happen?
How did it happen?
Well, probably a lot of these people know this, so I'll just sort of go through it as quickly as I possibly can, get as close to the microphone as I possibly can. I had read a novel by Sinclair Lewis that was written in 1935 about the rise of fascism that was happening in Germany and Italy during the 30s, happening in America, with the idea that, well, it can't happen here. Well, and you've heard that this book has been sort of in the press lately in the last couple of years, as a matter of fact. And it inspired me to sort of try to do a piece about how ordinary people in present-day America would respond to extraordinary circumstances. And it sort of evolved into this kind of allegorical warning about the dangers facing any free society when it's taken over by a demagogue who has led his followers into a regime that tramples over democracy and stomps on the rules of law. It tells it's about telling big lies that spread, and they tell it over and over and over again. And it's
this wasn't a believable scenario at all.
No, it really was a very far out concept. Yeah, and at the same time, the free press is being undermined, and until it gets to the point that there is only one source that you can go to for the news and for the truth. And I mean, look, it's happening in Russia and North Korea and China right now, for that matter, and people get killed. killed if they don't say things that are nice about the leader. And so it's also about a regime that was focused on branding some people as others because of their religion or because of their skin color, or in the case of V, of course, because they had scientific expertise that might, bring down the visitors.
So you're saying you don't personally hate scientists?
No, some of my best friends are scientists.
No one would ever really scapegoat science.
No, why would they do that?
That did seem ridiculous to me.
There's one piece of dialogue, incidentally, that comes up a lot when people write me or talk to me, and it's a pair of lines that happen late in the story when Mark has found out the visitor leader's diabolical plans, and he says to his visitor friend, Martin, how'd somebody like that get to be your leader? And Martin says, charisma, circumstances, promises, and not enough of us spoke out against it until it was too late. It's happened on your planet, hasn't it? Yes. And yes, indeed it.
So we have I got so excited by the promo, I forgot to play a piece of the Blu-ray. Let's see a little bit what that moment where the saucers come in, what it looks like now, all these years later.
The beautifully remastered Blu-ray?
Well, let's let the audience judge for themselves.
Quickly, when I got to the scoring stage where we were recording the musical score, I saw that they were planning to record Star Wars with the studio orchestra, and I said, that will never work. You guys can't play bad enough, to sound like a high school band. I said, oh yes, we can. They couldn't, but I let them do it, and I said, okay, that's very good. Thank you very much. You'll all get paid like you're supposed to. And this was cut out of the DVD commentary because Warner's were a little edgy about that, I guess, and because they did get paid, the musicians as they should have. But when we got on the dubbing stage, I said, "We're going with the original band, guys. It's great. It's a great moment." But okay,
we have another clip coming up with a special, I guess, surprise visitor.
Yeah, it sets up. This scene is the first time we meet one of the most endearing characters in V, who went on to a long career doing other things.
Here we go.
He went out he gets more people ask him about V than anything else. And when he was doing a PA tour for Freddy versus Jason, they had conferences like this and all, and everybody asking him about V. And one of the people running that thing said, well, look, does anybody have any questions about anything other than V? And all the hands came down. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. Great to work with, too.
And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we're gonna go, because we got a lot of clips.
Yeah,
we're gonna go right to a clip where I learned that one of the key pieces to video journalism is running around air ducts.
Yeah, and you get a lot of footage out of air ducts. This is a moment, it became sort of a seminal moment in television, as you'll see and remember. And then there's a little surprise for you. It's great. It's great.
It shows.
Oh, wait,
shows,
Mark, I think we're in trouble.
No, this is just a delicious snack. With the, you can buy these on Etsy if you look edible sewer rat.
Like so many people do, Mark.
By the time that Diana ate that gerbil, we had all seen what we thought were the worst parts of what we were going to be seeing. But we all gathered around when this special effect was brought to the stage. And all of us hardened veteran actors at this time, filmmakers who had blown up cars and fallen off of buildings and set ourselves on fire and God knows what else. We all came around, we watched this. Kenny said, now watch this. And he pulled this little lever and the whole jaw went down like this, and everybody went, whoa! But it does, I did want to say, before we got too far from the beginning of the very first clip, which took place in El Salvador, look at the refinement of the filmmaking that goes into this. And this, again, is the auteur here, sitting here, who did it. We had a car circling to the left with a camera ship up above filming down, a helicopter up there, a helicopter up there, another one down below, counterclockwise in the opposite direction, and all of this while acting and stunts and driving and all of this stuff. Explosions were going on, all perfectly timed. And then after that are all the special effects shots with the with the skull off in one side and the future coming in over the horizon on the other. And then finally, this kind of really pretty complicated stuff, which is how do you get the story told about eating rats and then being pulled out and have a fight in a room like that, and the diversity.
Which was Mark, as you could see, doing his own stuff.
That was one of the fun things about V, was that eventually it became whatever you can think of to do, you're welcome to do it too. And so if we could think of things that were, that added something to the show, it was welcome, always welcome.
He didn't know he has just set up the next film clip that we were going to show you. You want to start that?
Yeah, let's start it up.
And freeze it, leave the mic on because we're going to freeze it after it starts for a moment. Okay, this is right about...
Well, that's pretty freaky.
So that opening scene, just quickly touch on the subversive elements within the genre that you pulled off. You even pull it, say in the dialogue, that Mike is in El Salvador, and in 1983, shooting something that is sympathetic to the rebels in El Salvador, and then you draw it full circle to the end with the resistance, with even parallel shots, was pretty sneaky.
Bookending is what we do. One of the things that we didn't mention too is that the Blu-ray, as the DVD, is in 1:8:5. Wasn't in the old TV ratio of 3:4, and that was by design. We filmed it to be seen in 1:8:5, the way it is here. And I was a little prescient. I had a feeling eventually TVs would get bigger. And also my pilot for The Incredible Hulk had been released overseas as a foreign theatrical movie by Universal, and I thought, oh my God, they just cut it down and took heads and stuff off. So I said, let's shoot it for 1:8:5. We'll protect for TV so it won't look bad and there won't be microphones in the shot. But it really was filmed to be seen the way that it is seen on the DVD and now on this brilliant Blu-ray.
And what you see is cinematic. And to think that was, like when I experienced that on a 13-inch TV, it looked nothing like that at all. So you're really seeing it like this for the first time. I mean, the DVD was also in widescreen, but the fidelity on this is quite incredible.
And we just want to quickly get in front of this a little bit. There's a lot of fans online who are very passionate about V, and they love it, which is great, but we're getting some flack about, hey, shouldn't this be in 4:3? And when we went in to do it, our boss, George Feltenstein, is very, very into as originally intended, and he's very, very, very into correct aspect ratios. And right in the file on V, it says what Kenneth wanted. And then George actually reached out to Kenneth.
George called me and said, did you really shoot this in 1:8:5? And I said, yes, George, do it in 1:8:5. That's the way it needs to be. So for anybody who was disappointed that, get an old CRT TV screen and you can play it and see what it looks like.
How did you come around to casting Mark?
Desperation,
That's
No, actually, I had read a lot of actors for the role of Donovan and couldn't find somebody that really clicked, and we were down to the last week before we were supposed to start filming on Monday, and somebody said, hey, what about that guy in Beastmaster? And I said, I never saw Beastmaster. And he said, well, he's named Marc Singer. And I said, I know Marc Singer. I saw him do Petruchio in The Taming of the Shrew and took everybody's head off in San Francisco. And
totally the same thing.
Yes, exactly. So Mark came in. Do you remember the casting day?
I remember the casting day very well. And by the way, good evening, everybody. It's not evening?
Morning.
This
still
is
up, huh?
This is Detroit, right? I just got back from Spain, by the way, where V is the biggest thing still in the history of that country's television. And every young man of a certain age, and all of the women too, at 6 o'clock in the evening, repaired to their television sets and watched V, I mean throughout the country. Everybody pretended to be Mike Donovan, every male, and every female pretended to be Julie. And that says something. I'll get to the casting in just a moment, but it says something to why we're here, and that is the vision of the artist. Because here's Ken Johnson, who created this thing how many years ago?
35.
There you go. but who's counting? And he had a vision for it. Not only a vision for the idea, not only a vision for the execution, but a vision for its presentation, what he wanted it to look like. And here we are 35 years later, and he's still the artist that says, I want it to look and present a certain way. I think that's an extraordinary thing, and much kudos to him for that.
Thank you, Mark.
I see some lizard men in the audience.
Yes, this,
Yeah,
people are scouting the audience. Yes.
I think that guy threw me up against a bulkhead. As far as the casting is concerned, it was the strangest casting process that I've ever experienced. Wait a minute, I'll wait till the...
You could be waiting forever. Keep going.
Okay. Anyway, it was a very strange casting process. Wait. Oh, he ate somebody. There we go. It was a very strange casting process. I went into a very small office, and usually what happens is there are a bunch of people around in a larger room, and you stand out in the center, and you perform your role. But in this case, it was a very small office. Brandon Tartikoff, the head of CBS, was there at the time, and Ken Johnson, and maybe one other person, crammed into this tiny little space about the size of a janitor's closet. And Ken Johnson went like this, said, "This is Marc, shake hands with everybody." Well, there were only three of us. I said hello to him, and hello to Ken again, as though I'd never seen him before. And he said, "Okay, now here we go. We're going to read the first scene. You be Mike Donovan, and I'll be the other guy." And he went like this, "Aha, Mike Donovan, what's going on with you?" and then I went like this. And he said, and then he says, "Oh, yeah." And then he said, "Aha, Mike Donovan, so you think, but what about so-and-so?" And then I went, and he said, "Well, then he goes," and he went like this for about 5 minutes, and then he said, "Isn't he great? Go on, get out of here." And he pushed me out the door.
I didn't want him to blow it, you know?
He knew
Because I knew he could do it.
he just knew he would do it right. So there we are.
Mark did it right.
Yeah. No one has handled a TV camera more like a weapon than you. I'm like, journalism is cool. I gotta get myself into that.
That's another one of those underlying portions of the story, which is that telling the story correctly, observing it correctly, reporting it correctly is a noble profession. And those are the heroes. Those of us, all of us in the room, all of us everywhere, that tell the story correctly and tell it honestly.
Well, speaking of the story, we've got another little clip of what happens when the visitors first come to land on Earth.
Yeah, a little quick setup. There was a high school band was going to greet them in the script that I had written, and at the production meeting, they said, "Well, what's the band going to play?" And I said, "I don't know, Stars and Stripes Forever or something." And my assistant, Shannon Monahan, said, "It ought to be Star Wars." And I said, "That's brilliant."
Here we go.
There during the day, and I said, "This is cool. This is so great. There's water in the bottom, down there, so that you can see that you get the reflections." And water was an important thing, in the story. And I said, "Oh, the smokestacks. Do you guys have lights that go down there on this?" And they said, "No, we just have red beacons on the top." I said, "Could we put lights on the smokestacks?" And they said, "Oh, sure." And the insurance department said, "No, you can't. We will not insure your guys climbing up there." And I said, "Oh, that's really a drag, but okay, if that's the rule, that's the rule." And I got there that night to film, and it looked like that. And I said to Jack Schlosser, my gaffer, I said, how come we got the lights? And Jack said, "Kenny wants lights on the smokestack. We're going to put lights on the smokestack." So bless Jack's heart. And now, Mark got there that evening, and they're going to, you can leave the mic on and start rolling the clip, Matt. Mark and Tony are sneaking in over here, and Mark said, "Hey, you want to keep water in the picture? How about I slip off as we're going across, and I let my toe down and touch the water?" And I said, "I don't have a stunt guy here that can do it. I don't." He said, "What are you talking about? I can do that." And I said, "Okay, go for it." There he is, trying to just look at camera so we know it's Mark. And right about in here, he has a little slip. There's one more shot of the bad guy, I think. Yeah, like that. There it is. And we put a little light in the water so we could make sure we could see it. But this is the kind of actor you want to have beside you all the time. The guy that is always doing everything he can to make it good.
Actually, in truth, I knew I was clumsy enough to fall off halfway through, and
Oh, you're covering your ass.
I was hoping somebody would save me.
That's funny.
But that also tells you something about the time in which this was filmed, because it was my training, and it was Kenny's expectation that that's the kind of stuff that actors should bring with them when they come to work.
He brought everything with him, and he was a real action guy from the beginning. Here's a little behind-the-scenes clip that I think you'll enjoy.
Oh, yes.
One of the things that I don't know if I should disclose or not is that you couldn't see anything through that lens, so every time you put it up, it was like this.
In the next clip, Mike has just escaped from a mothership wearing a visitor uniform, you may remember, and he's dragged into the resistance headquarters because they think they've captured a visitor. And this is one of my favorite scenes in the picture where Mark and Faye meet for the first time.
The best journalist in the world, but everybody in the ensemble, it's such a large ensemble, and it's a group of common people, and what I love is it's like, what would you do if lizard space Nazi aliens came down and took over the government? And it puts you in that place, and it makes for a wonderful ensemble that carries it through this film.
Yeah, it was very important to me to have a real spectrum of humanity as part of the resistance, and that was what was important there. And we didn't have much time to rehearse. We had a quick weekend of rehearsal, and I brought a couple of stills from that will give you a little glimpse of where we were up. This is the cast getting together for the very first time to read through the script together.
You
as
have
many of us as we
the
could.
slide on the...
And go on to the next one, Matt. You got it?
Yeah, it's up now.
And the second one coming up, there it is. Okay, this is where the family gets together at the beginning of the picture, and that's me trying to figure out how I'm going to shoot it. Keep going, buddy. And you can pause on this one just a second. This is where the bad kid, Daniel, is trying to drag away the teenage girl to be his woman. And his father has got him in a headlock and ends up throwing him, you'll remember, into the swimming pool where he pulls his gun on his dad. And we didn't have any prop guns in the rehearsal, so I tossed this to David. Yeah, and fortunately it didn't go off accidentally. It was great. You can keep going. Here the team meeting for the first time of what became a tremendous working relationship, and also these guys. The first day we were working together, it was like they had been doing it forever. And I think the next one is, here we are on the floor, left to right, it's Faye, Michael Wright, me, and Mark, and Michael Durrell, and Shannon on the bottom. And you can see how intense they are. We're trying to find the moment and get it right on the screen. Here's me on the set, still trying to get the moment right with Faye. And then finally, once you get the moment, trying to figure out, how to frame the moment and how to capture it on the film. Which was, part of what it was all about. There's a lot more stills like that on my website, www.kennethjohnson.us. This was my concept for the advertising campaign. I went to Steve Somer, who was the head of advertising at NBC and kind of managed the whole thing. And I said, "Do you ever see the Nazi propaganda posters with the Wehrmacht soldiers, with the little Dutch girls sitting on their shoulders going, 'Hi, we're the Nazis, we're the new guys in town, we want to be your friends,' I said, let's put up alien posters like that and billboards all across the country, and then, don't switch yet, but then the second week, go out, just send out a bunch of kids with cans of spray paint or paint brushes, and deface your own poster with a big red V, which we did. And then the third week, you can do this, where you just put a little banner up on the corner that says "The battle begins," and it sort of went viral before there was a viral word, I think. And that was one that was in the neighborhood near where we lived.
I mean, I'm sure you all remember, it was really an extraordinary advertising campaign well before people said guerrilla marketing. I remember, riding the subway to school and seeing these posters being like, what is this? And then the V's showing up, and they were really spray painted. And then finally, like, oh, it's a show. I must watch that.
It's cool. It's really cool. The interesting thing we've been talking about and then that brought in a huge audience. And this Mark talking about Spain. This is a parade that took place this last spring in Madrid. in Spain, and they made all their floats, they made all their uniforms, the legions of people are marching through, and there are groups like this all over Europe, in South America. It's just really, really, really astonishing. And this is an interesting, hold on her for just a second, because this is because in V, the second generation, there are, of course, a group of young people who have been born as half-breed kids, and this is an example of what they're going to look like when we get to making the 2 sequel movies. V, the movie, yeah. Okay, yeah. I know. No. No. I know, a lot of you are sitting out there going, I know, he's been talking about this goddamn thing for years. When is it actually going to happen? And we thought we had it nailed last year when we made a deal with the new Desilu Studios. And it was great. They announced it. They gave us a big chunk of money. But then when we started doing some location scouting and beginning visual effects work, and then suddenly the Hollywood Reporter reported that this guy who was owning Desilu didn't have the billions of dollars he was supposed to have, and the thing imploded. But my dear team kept working right along with me, and there is some interesting new hope that I'm going to share with you today. But first, I want you to meet the 3 guys who are my key producing partners who are here with me today. John Hermansen, Barry Opper, and, wait for it, Ken W. Johnson. All right, stand up, guys. Take a bow. Stand up. Yeah, his name really is, no kidding, Ken Johnson. There's 2 of us, no waiting. Now, to give you an idea of how the movie's going to look different from what the original did, this is from the original. You recognize the spaceship there, and what that standing beside it are me and Susie, my wife, and my daughter Katie, who have been walking through this V saga with me for 35 years, and they are down here too. Just wave to everybody, will you? Please, we're down here.
This is like the ultimate camping trip. Like Dad brought an RV.
Yeah, Dad got an RV. That's exactly it. Actually, this was only about 1.5 miles from where we lived when we did that. But Chuck Davis had designed, knew we had to build a lot of spaceships for the original V, and of course we couldn't do that. We didn't have that kind of money. So Chuck built them so that they could come apart, and we could take the nose of the fighter off and put it on the front of these ships, and we could add in these other chunks of different sizes to make the ships different sizes. The downside was they all had to be able to be trucked around to wherever we had to take them, which was really a problem. This is on stage 25 at Warner Brothers where we shot it, and this is incidentally where Casablanca was filmed on the stage, and it was an honor being there. But I couldn't make it as big as I wanted to, and what I did was, you can see the ceiling of the stage there. So in the original and the DVD and also in the Blu-ray, I created this matte shot where I shot the stage over here, and then I shot it again for take 2, doing some different action, and we flopped it over and put it on the other side, and we put this matte painting in the middle to sort of tie it together and make it look bigger. And when I saw the film on the screen, I thought, this is really cheesy. And so I didn't want to put it full screen, so it only ever appears on a TV screen, and that's the reason. But nowadays, we have the ability to do things that are a little bit more advanced than what we were doing back then. And now, okay, here's the deal, guys. I'm going to give you a sneak peek at some of the first previous work that we're doing for V the movie, okay? But you got to do something for me. You got to put your cameras down, because I really don't want to get it splashed all over the, that's good, I like that. Good, hands up. I really don't want to get it all over the internet yet. But
The lizard guys are gonna come around.
That's right.
Take your cameras.
If you'll do that, we are really excited to have have him working with us. He's a powerhouse Hollywood producer who has done close to 40 pictures. You may not know his name. His name is Ted Field. But some of the movies of his you have enjoyed are, let's see, 3 Men and a Baby to The Last Samurai, or how about the Vin Diesel Riddick trilogy, or how about that little trilogy that bears the name of Jumanji. And Ted has come to us with a pathway that he feels is going to allow us to make V the movie the way that we want to get it made, and then roll into the sequels. And I know one question will be, will you ever use any of the people like Mark again? Well, Mark would appear, of course, in the sequels because he has to play Mike Donovan 20 years later.
All right, we've got about 10 we got about 10 minutes to go, so we want to get to some Q&A here,
Perfect.
right? Anybody got questions?
No, nobody has any questions.
There's a microphone right over there.
And while you guys line up, I want to make something clear because if there's any bloggers in the audience who want to try to build up a story, I want to make sure you guys understand we're here promoting the Blu-ray, and we're here to say thank you to Ken. The movie's Ken's deal.
Right.
While
Sounds like he
people
doesn't want to take any responsibility for it.
While people are getting set up and going to the microphone and so forth, I don't want to take too long. But seeing some of this footage for the first time in a long time, I'm reminded, I'm thrilled that we've got the effects now, that we can make the hangars as big as they are. But boy, what a thrill to be standing on that soundstage with those practical sets. That really made you feel that you were right out there in the middle of everything. So that's a great thing too. Just lovely looking back.
Yeah.
Watching the clips, I actually really love the practical effects so much. And
Well, yeah, when Jane swallowed the thing, we had to do it for real.
Yeah.
I mean, at the production meeting, my special, we got to the production meeting, going through and looking at the problems, and we get to the woman's jaw opens larger than life, and she swallows, and we see it going down her throat. And Tom Reba, my special effects guy, said, "How are we going to do that, Kenny?" And I said, "Beats the shit out of me, Tom."
get a very flexible guinea pig.
That's right. Yeah. Question.
All right, so for the 5 best questions, we have the Blu-ray cover autographed by the 2 gentlemen on stage. State your name, state your question.
Hi, my name's Nicholas. I just want to thank you, Warners, for doing this great archive stuff. Hope we get a Beastmaster 2 Blu-ray soon, Mark. Ken, 2006, I talked to you at Incredible Hulk panel.
Oh, right.
Yep,
I
me.
remember you.
Thank you for the Bionic Woman DVDs. I'm just here to say thanks for being such a prolific writer, director, everything producer. You are too missed, and hope to see your name again soon. So thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Let me do a quick revision. We know you guys appreciate, you don't need to say thank you, you don't need to compliment, just get to the question so everyone gets their opportunity, okay?
Go.
Hello, this is a question from Marc Singer. When they brought you back for the reboot and then they canceled the series, I was just curious, did they tell you what the direction was for your character and where they were going to go before they killed the show?
I'm not hearing it.
Oh, for the reboot
To
of
give you an idea of where your character was going in the
Yeah,
show.
when they brought you back before they canceled it.
On the NBC reboot.
On the NBC reboot. On the NBC reboot of V, my character was going in the dumpster, I think. They brought me on for the last episode, and by then I think the decision had been made to pull the plug. So there wasn't much to it. I do know. I'll tell you one thing though. Another thing I should say on behalf of Ken Johnson. I always wanted a screen name, like John Wayne or something like that. Everybody had a screen name, and if I had to choose a screen name, it would be Mike Donovan.
Great name.
It's not too late.
What's up?
Hey, Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for being here. When I first saw this, I was awestruck, but upon repeated viewings, it's always the real-world conflict. It just feels so real. It's like a drama that just has sci-fi trappings, but I just finished an audiobook about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was part of the resistance in Germany, and I was wondering if you had a specific tale of that fueled your writing for the resistance in the series.
Well, the whole idea of the real people. I went to Auschwitz, as a matter of fact, and did Warsaw, and did a lot of research, and before, during, and after V, as a matter of fact. And I met so many people. And you know what I saw in all of the survivors that I met, who had been in the camps and been in the resistance inside the camps and fought back inside the camps? They had this fire in their eyes, and you just could see this person was a survivor. And that was, it was really amazing to see that. Good question.
Thank
What
you.
was your name?
Steve.
Steve, great.
This is Darren. Good morning. Question for Warner. Tell us about your selection process for finding a property that you would like to zhuzh up, and then what is it like to get the phone call that you are a property that is going to get this kind of amazing treatment?
This is going to sound self-serving, but it's actually time-saving. We do a podcast. It's easy to find, Warner Archive Collection podcast, and we go into this in detail regularly, although sometimes we say it's a blind monkey throwing darts at a wall.
But I was thrilled and delighted when I heard it was going to Blu-ray. I had been chasing them to do a DVD in the late 90s, and finally in 2001 somebody called and said, hey, we think it would be a great idea if we did V. And I went, oh, right. These guys, in this case, came to me and they were ready to rock, and they did a tremendous job. It's just really an amazing piece of work.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. You guys have been an inspiration to me since I was a child. I even cosplayed as V in elementary school, and I work in the film industry because of this show. I have always wondered what will happen to some of the other cast members. Are there going to be other actors from the original series that'll make an appearance? And will also you be doing any practical effects in this?
Any
practical effects, models, things like that?
I don't know yet about the miniatures. Probably more. It'll be more CGI than ever because it's just so much easier to do, and you get much more flexibility. The casting is something that is very tricky because we obviously love the people that we worked with before. They have to be the appropriate age that works, and so once we get down into doing the pictures, we're certainly going to try to bring. Whenever I'm doing a project, the first thing I do is I look to my friends. Who do I really want to work with again? And incidentally, that's part of the reason my stuff has ended up looking so good over the years is because I've been surrounded by some of the most talented people you can imagine. But thanks.
Thank you so much. By the way, my name is Eric.
Hi, my name's Nanette, and I'm a sci-fi nerd. I'm such a fan of movies and TV shows with aliens in it. My favorite Twilight Zone episode was To Serve Man. And so when I saw V is for Victory, I was hooked, line and sinker. Boy, just loved your show. I just wondered what sci-fi influences or favorite movies or TV shows you had when you were growing up.
I had Forbidden Planet, of course, jumps out right away, but that was one of the main ones. One of the things that I want to comment on, though, too, is about the fact that you are a female, and that's not unusual in my audience. My audience has traditionally been at least half of the people watching are female. And about the Rod Serling piece, To Serve Men, the Twilight Zone thing, I had never seen it. And
oh, really?
Katie, my daughter, said, hey, did you ever see that? Is that what influenced me? And it wasn't, but she showed it to me, and I went, oh my God, this is really fun.
In third grade, I received the original short story as a reading assignment, and my little mind was like, I was like, oh my God, it's people. So again, when I saw this show, I was like, they know my brain.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Annette.
Hello. My name is Philip. My question was for Mr. Johnson and Mr. Singer. In '96, what was your impression when Independence Day came out and seemed to borrow, or it just seemed to copy so many themes? There was a countdown signal, and the ships appeared without making their intentions clear.
And Steve Somer called me and said, hey, did you see our posters back up again? I'll tell you the story of that. Susie and I were at an awards ceremony, I think for the Saturns or something, and afterwards we were walking out into the parking lot, and these two guys came running up behind us. And they said, hi, Kenny, we just always wanted to say hello. I'm Dean Devlin, and this is Roland Emmerich. And I said, wow. And they said, yeah. And we just wanted you to know, I swear to God, this is a quote, we've been ripping you off for years. and it's truly, I said, yeah, that's really cool. Where's my cut of the 400 million, guys? but Susie can verify that really did happen. And so it was flattering, but at the same time, it was a bit frustrating because, anyway, moving on. That's why we're going to do what we're going to do. But thanks.
Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thanks for coming.
Short. Hello, my name is Larry. I have a question for Mr. Johnson. When you were talking earlier about the advertising on the billboards and things, and I never saw any of those, but I did see the 10 or 15 second clip on the TV, and all it shows was the UN building with the shuttle coming in, and all it says is V 5 days.
Yeah,
then
Steve and
3
I,
days.
yes, Steve Sommer and I decided we would do a countdown. It was like a 21-day countdown
Yes.
until they arrived. But one of the things Steve had discovered in the testing of the piece was that audiences were a little disappointed when they saw they looked like us. So we decided not to show any of what the visitors themselves looked like until on the day.
It was that minimalism of advertising, which is what made me want to see the show.
Oh, that's cool. Good thing to know. Thank you. Your name?
Hi, my name is Sarah, and my question is actually for Mark. Mark, I wanted to find out what your favorite memory was from filming the series.
Well, there's so many.
Carrying Hanani over to you, maybe.
Do what?
Carrying Hanani across the river.
It might have been. There are so many. I'll tell you another story about Kenny. I will. He reminds me of this, but it was one that I was inclined toward myself. When those helicopters were flying overhead, spraying us with hot bullet shells while the cars were going around in the opposite direction, and Kenny was yelling action, at one point or another, I looked up, and Kenny was carrying my wife in his arms across a river so she wouldn't get her feet wet. That's how much energy he put into the making of this. There was only one day that I ever saw him like that, and I said, "What happened?" He said, "I got hungry. I had a candy bar, and it just drained me." And then that was the only time. Other than that, it looked like we had all the time in the world. It felt like we had all the time in the world, but that's because he was running 100 miles an hour all day, every day.
And because my cast was prepared and ready and on the money every single moment they were there. They were brilliant.
You know, the thing that you asked me what my favorite moment was, I really do have to say the entire thing, because there never was a shot that you were in. There wasn't a scene that you were in. There wasn't a line that you said. There wasn't a moment that you participated in that didn't make it feel like, this is what I got into acting for. This is why I came to Hollywood. This is what it should be like all day, every day. That's it.
Thank you.
Your name?
Hi, my name is Dan. Thank you very much for being here, guys. Mr. Johnson, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what inspired you to add the character of Ham Tyler to the mix, and Mark, if you could talk about acting with Michael Ironside.
Well, I was not involved with the casting of the sequel. I was not involved with the sequel at all after we wrote the original script, as probably many of you know. I will tell you something that maybe you don't know, which is that Ham Tyler was created to be in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And confined to the wheelchair. And I wanted that because I wanted Mark to be the only big one stand-up action guy. But when Michael Ironside was cast, he went to the producers and said, "My name is Ironside. I can't play a character in a wheelchair." And he's a great actor, but then the producer said, "Oh yeah, well he doesn't need to be in a wheelchair. We'll take that out." And it was like the whole basis of his character. So my friends who did the sequel said I should really never look at it because it was not going to live up to what we had started out to do, and we were.
The sequel was not as easy to participate in as when the auteur was at the helm.
Please.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
This is going to have to be the last question. So, thanks everybody else.
My name's Kenny. I was wondering, will this Blu-ray contain just the original miniseries, or will it have the final battle included with it? And if not, when will that be coming out, if ever?
It's just the original miniseries, and as far as the final battle, time will tell.
Let me say one thing to wrap up, and that is that I have to give my deepest thanks to the guys at Warner Archive because of the meticulous attention that is demanded by their boss, George Feltenstein, and the work that Gary and Matt and Dan have done to put this whole thing together was just remarkable. But the Blu-ray, it's really dazzling. There's like 4 times the amount of pixels here that you ever saw before, and they're all beautiful pixels. It's got dynamite sound and all of that. And what I loved the best, I think, is one of the reasons I got into filmmaking as opposed to staying in the theater, which has been my plan, was because I wanted to be able to get a scene and get it right and then capture it and have it forever. And now, with this archive quality piece that these gentlemen have created, your kids will be able to see this timeless story, and their kids will be able to see it because it's not going to go away. And it's a story that we always have to remember and think about the importance of fighting back against oppression.
All right.